the meantime, back here, Manchester United didn't exactly set the heather on fire against Luton. They won 1-0, but fairly unspectacular stuff, you might say. But after all the setbacks, are they in a positive place? This was Erik Ten Hag on that.
Even after all the setbacks where we have where we dealt with, we are still in a position close, nearby at the top 4. And when we start to play well, when we get it done, that a team is set for a couple of weeks and months. Now we won our last 4 games from 5 in Premier League, which is good. So we are actually in a quite good position. If you oversee all the trouble we have, we are in a very good position. And that is a reason for being optimistic.
I mean, have we lost perspective on where United are, Simon? You say, no, it's all right. We're going along quite nicely. So they're 6th this morning on 21 points, 7 behind City at the top.
Depends where you think Manchester United should be based upon last season's performance and what you would have expected to have seen this season. If you think hanging on by your fingernails into the Champions League, having gotten beaten in several games and beaten quite emphatically by Bayern Munich, which is the most convincing 4-3 you'll ever see, and you think some of the performances they put in this season and being 6th in the league is the blueprint for suggesting that all is relatively well in the Man United garden, then that's fine. I don't denote it that way. And if the benchmark this season was we must get into the top 4 and top 4 is our benchmark, then he's right, isn't he? Because they're in touching distance, they're a few points behind. Mm-hmm. But the Champions League performance has been at best dire. It has been dire. They nicked past Copenhagen in the first game. They've gotten beaten by Galatasaray. They've got beaten by Bayern Munich. They've got beaten by Copenhagen again. I mean, if their blueprint is Man United 2023, their version of success is we get in the top 4 and we win the League Cup, then by those standards, they're successful. By the standards that I would have imagined that observers, impartial and neutral observers, and of course those that are heavily invested would expect of Man United, they would expect a lot more than that.
You see, over the weekend, Martin, I think I saw a statistic that domestically, they're the most informed team in the Premier League.
Well, I'll preface everything by saying, first of all, winning is it. Winning is everything. You have to win the games. The last couple of matches they played, they haven't played all that well, and they've won. They scored in the very, very last minute against Fulham. Big victory again. Keep back and saying every victory's big, and they beat Luton Town as well. That's the most important thing. What you are as a manager, you are delighted with the wins, even if you haven't played well, because you're hoping that things will change, that you will play better, and that you can then win games with a wee bit more panache and a wee bit more grace, or whatever the adjectives you want to describe it. That's the thing. I still think Manchester United are a pretty average side at this minute, and for all their woes, I don't. Winning is very, very important. If you are comparing or contrasting from last season, has there been a massive improvement? You would have to say I don't really see it at this minute. But then again, it's
yeah.
Go on. You were going to stop me.
Well, I think it comes down to... Go on, Simon.
How are we making a case for one of being the informed sides in the Premier League? Their most recent games have been a 1-0 win against Burnley,
4 wins and 5.
A 1-0 loss against Palace. Look at the opposition that they've played when we talk about it. They couldn't have a run of fixtures besides the Man City spanking that they got. Yeah. Right? They've played Brentford. They've played Sheffield United.
You can only beat what's in front of you.
I know, but these are sides by the love
4
of God.
4 wins and 5.
Yeah, but look at the opposition they've been playing against. Brentford, okay, is a decent side, but they're not a top side in the division.
No, but the stat is 4 wins and 5, not brackets. Look who they're playing against.
Well, you have to price that into the conversation when we're talking about informed sides. Fulham are dreadful at this moment in time. Luton are bottom of the league and in and around that space because that's where they deserve to be. Are
you arguing with 4 wins and 5?
Of course I am, because I'm looking at the wins.
Looking at the wins. If you were an owner of Manchester United, you'd be happy with that.
Well, no, because the owner of Man United should expect a higher standard. Winning is winning. At the end of the day, you bank these wins, you move on. Right. You build a better side. Are we seeing a better side being developed?
Are you seeing progress?
Well, On what basis? Your team is 6th in the league, beating teams like Fulham 1-0.
I know,
beating
but
teams
I'm
like
with
Luton
Jim in
1-0.
that. There, you can't choose. There's a set. Sometimes you get a wee bit lucky. Sometimes you get really unlucky with a set of fixtures that come up. And Manchester United have got a little bit of luck with those particular fixtures, but you can't. You can only play what's in front of you. Have they played all that brilliantly? Not at all.
Yeah.
No, they haven't. They've scrambled through and won those particular matches, which is a
So
manager.
when they play a live one, when they play a live one like a Champions League side,
that's true.
beat.
Their Champions League form has been very, very poor. There's no question about that there, and they might not make it through into the group stages.
But they're going to get better, they're not? They're going to get better. Ten Hag is saying that's his point. At the moment, look at where we are. We're 6th and we're going along quite nicely. Very quietly, going along quite nicely. Not far off the top 4, certainly not far off. City aren't out of reach by any stretch of the imagination in November.
No one's out of reach after 12 games of the season or whatever it is, so no one's there.
Yeah.
So that's true. It's the one. If you want to look upwards, you judge
them by their peers, don't
I'm
you?
5 points away from
You
the
judge them by their
Champions League.
peers and the teams that are in and around them. Tottenham have beaten them. Arsenal have beaten them. Brighton beat them recently. Man City smashed them into the next life. So where's this progress that we're looking for? What they're doing is beating the sides that you would expect even an average Manchester United to beat. And they're losing to some of them.
But they're
like
only
Palace.
5 points off top 4.
Well, that may tell you something about what's happening in the top 4 rather than how good Man United are.
I mean, at the end of the day, Simon, I take your point. In Europe, yeah, in the Champions League,
But what about
far
the league?
from impressive.
But what about the league form? I mean, and Martin's right. Of course he's right, because the fixtures come as they come, right? But we're trying to make a case to stop the hysteria around Ten Hag and look at the reality of what Man United are doing and look at the world through Ten Hag's eyes. And there's an element of that's fair enough, because Arteta was given enough licence and he was given enough time to build a football team. Why should it be any different from Ten Hag? Ferguson was given enough time to build a football team, but the world has changed. And Ten Hag is looking at a side that has micromanagement and media that has micromanagement in its expectation of Manchester United. Because we're now saying that with the narrative that's been built up for the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's not if potentially Ten Hag is going to go, when is he going to go, and what is going to be the event that gets him gone? What is it going to be? Is it going to be getting knocked out of the Champions League? Is it going to be a run of form in the league that shows that they're not actually making any progress? No one really knows, because no one knows the thinking of the mindset of the people that hired him in the first place. No one knows that because no one's ever spoken to them. The Glazers have never given an interview. No one understands what their thinking is. These are the same people that gave Ole Gunnar Solskjaer 3 years, 168 games. So there's a reasonable amount of thought process that probably Ten Hag is going to be given a similar amount of time to correct whatever the current malaise is. But you cannot look at the Champions. The Champions League will be a defining point for Man United, because it's a huge amount of revenue that they throw away, that the Glazers clearly need, because they always want this money to service debt and all the things that antagonise the Man United fans in the first place. But the bottom line is that they're 6th in the league.
And domestically, they're okay, so he's right to be optimistic.
But the moment they play anyone of any substance, they get bashed.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.